An incredible weekend of football with Tipperary getting the first Munster title in 85 years and Cavan bridging a gap of 23 years since last they lifted the Ulster title. Dublin, of course, battered Meath. But it makes for a great team of the week, and we'll start off in goals. As you can imagine, this is very heavily weighted towards Cavan and Tipperary, but of course there are a few other players in there that not only get honourable mentions but from other counties that pushed close. In goals, I think Ray Galligan was always going to get in there. I mean, what a performer he's been for Cavan this season, and I think it was pretty nailed on that he'd get this slot. Now, that's not to say that Stephen Cluxton and Evan Comerford didn't play well for their counties. They did indeed, but I just think Raymond Galligan, he led from the back, and he's just so comfortable bringing the ball out, and at one stage he pumped the ball long up the field, and I thought, this is crazy to be just giving away possession towards the very, very end of the game, when Cavan might be handing the impetus back to a Donegal team that you thought were in position to maybe get that score to level it up, but it ended up with that Martin Riley chance, and he nearly should have scored a goal if we're being honest. But anyway, Galligan, he was always a great outlet and a safe pair of hands. Full back line, heavily weighted towards Cavan again. Jason McLaughlin was excellent, so was Pádraig Faulkner and Michael Fitzsimons. For Dublin, I actually got tired watching him running around and pressing people out towards the middle of the field. He was really brilliant. And for the Cavan defence to concede just 12 points, and an awful lot of that, 7 points of that, to be while they had that black card in the first half, that harsh enough one, just tells you how well that full back line played. So, and Faulkner has just been a brilliant player both for club and county for a while. Now, half back line, Robbie McDade was probably the pick of them for Dublin this weekend. And of course, they had their way with Meath in the 321 to 9 point victory, but he was very good. Killian Clark, he picked up Michael Murphy, thought he did a great job. Always a really tough task, and if you can somewhat curb the influence of Michael Murphy, you're going very far. And this is a player who had, he had opted out for this season, but he's returned to the panel unlike a couple of others, and he really is after getting his rewards for it, so congrats to him. Jared Smith was brilliant at wing back, and that point he scored, if people remember it, up in the far right corner as you're looking at it on television, and he kind of went this way and that and then back again, and eventually clipped it over for a narrow angle on the right with his right, which of course is the tougher side for a right footer. That was brilliant, and he was really good throughout the course of the game. Thomas Galligan was probably more or less the hero. He's kind of the folk hero of Cavan at this stage, whether it's winning those kickouts, taking the dunt in the head and coming back on again with the number 30 jersey, and doing the interview afterwards with quite a little shiner on his eye. What a performance from him. Got a great point as well. Brian Fenton, kind of again, Dublin very much at their ease throughout this game, so it was very, very easy, but as ever, Fenton is just he's just out there lording it. Now, you could have looked at Liam Casey for Tipperary, scored a couple of points, kept chugging all day. Maybe Ian Maguire, I thought he was one of the few guys for Cork who really didn't back down. And an awful lot of the scores that they got over the course of the game, you can trace them back to him, so I think he was really good. Also, Jimmy Feehan was in the full back line for Tipperary, was really good. Always seemed very secure back there, and he's worth an honourable mention. Half forward line, Sean Bugler was brilliant for Dublin. He just kept going all day. He really put Meath on the back foot, scored a nice little goal, palmed it in. Typical Dublin sort of a goal, but he's really good and he's kicking on all the time. Scored that goal against Laois as well, so his form is good, and at times you wonder why are some of these class players like Brian Howard and Paul Mannion and different types of players on the bench for Dublin, but when you have the likes of Bugler stepping up, that probably explains why. And we'll be interested to see if those key men that I've just talked about remain on the bench for the All-Ireland semi-final against Cavan, or if the likes of Bugler is kept in that side, but his form would suggest he would be. The other two members of the half-forward line are from Tipperary. Michael Quinlivan was brilliant. He scored 5 points overall, just one of them from a free. He was a class act. Colin O'Riordan, probably out around the middle of the field, but the star man of the week, really. Himself and Galligan. Just some of his catch-outs. When Tipperary needed him to step up towards the end of the game, he caught some unbelievable kick-outs. 1 of 45 after an unbelievably long bruising run at one stage. I'd say he's a very happy man today, the Killea man, so that's a huge one for him, and he was absolutely brilliant. So the inside line then, we're looking at Conor Sweeney, Kieran Kilkenny and Conor Madden. So three different sides that won their provincial title. Conor Sweeney scored 7 points, 2 marks, 2 frees, and just led the team from the front. Real captain's performance. He was brilliant. Kieran Kilkenny scored 4 points. Again, very much at his ease, but you can't ignore how effective he is at what he does and how he's adapted to playing on the inside line. And he can roam out if they need him, but such a class act. And then Conor Madden with 1-2. Infuriating at times watching him play because he was taking on these low percentage shots, but kept going. And to score 1-2 out of a total of 113, that tells you how impactful he was over the course of the game. So there was a couple of other guys that I looked at for the inside line. And you'd think Luke Connolly, if he had to stay on over the course of the game, he might be there and Cork might have won that provincial title, but wasn't to be. Paddy McBrearty, I thought, was very good for Donegal. He scored 4 points, 2 of them were from frees, and a number of those scores in the first half, he was involved in the sort of build-up and sort of hand passing it on to whoever. And like, he's such a safe pair of hands and feet, obviously, that he like, if Donegal had to come through here, he's definitely someone you'd be looking at for the team. Conor Cavan scored a couple of points, very much at his ease over the course of the game. Niall Scully scored 1-1. He was in contention for the half-forward line, not too far off it. And even just in terms of dissenting voices, Jordan Morris scored 4 points for Meath. He's a good player. I mean, Meath are obviously a mile off Dublin, as most people are, but scoring 4 points and one of them a free, so 3 from play was really good. And then Oisín Kiernan, he scored 2 points for Cavan, but just that one from the left flank alone with his left foot, just in stride, knocking it over the bar from, must have been 35 yards. That was absolutely fabulous. So if there's any player that you think should be in there and isn't, please let me know, get your comments in, and we'll do one again next week.